Before US President-elect Donald Trump has even been inaugurated, he's pushing for protectionism. Whether on Twitter or in a traditional-style newspaper interview, his message is clear: produce in the US or pay heavy import duties. Well, that threat is forcing car makers like Toyota, Ford, General Motors, and most recently also BMW to rethink their business strategy. And with this, a very warm welcome to a new edition of Made in Germany. Now, on Friday, Donald Trump will officially become the 45th president of the United States, and his supporters will expect him to deliver on his campaign promise to make America great again. Whatever that might entail, it's a catchy slogan that carried him all the way to the White House. Now, Trump recently coupled that slogan with dismissive comments about NATO and the European Union. Yes, the EU is struggling with problems like migration, debt crisis and Brexit. But we Europeans also pride ourselves on being more about substance and less about packaging. But given the current concerns about the future of the EU, do we also need a rallying cry? Here's our reporter Joachim Egger's take on making Europe great again.
Idyllic scenes of Europe, like out of a picture postcard. A peaceful place. And for decades now, that's what Europe has been.
Europe is above all a peace project, not just an economic one, and we shouldn't forget that. It's a peace project that's been working brilliantly for 70 years. Today, war here is unthinkable.
Marcel Fratscher is a man of facts, figures and statistics. And he's convinced that the European project is a success. But what's the best way to market that success? We posed that question to some experts here at a reception held by a major marketing agency in Zurich. They develop strategies for selling pretty much anything that can be sold.
Brands never emerge from the future, but from the past. Europe has a strong founding myth based on the idea of never again war and also prosperity for all.
Donald Trump also drew on an American myth with the slogan that helped him win the presidency.
And we will make America great again.
For many, a powerful message, one reinforced through social media like Twitter, which Trump used to great advantage in his campaign.
From a branding perspective, he did everything right. Strong brands have a strong mission. His slogan helped him express the idea that he stands for in a concise and emotional way.
Can Europe take a page from his book? What do the experts say?
Make Europe great again sounds like peace, equality, and the rule of law. Everyone's grumbling about Europe, saying it's on the brink of failure. They say reforms aren't working in Southern Europe, the euro isn't working, that it's not the right currency. But maybe we're bad-mouthing Europe too much. I believe Europe is great. We shouldn't forget what Europe is and what it's done for us. Germany, especially, is one of the biggest beneficiaries of the European Union and the euro.
And Germany is booming. 2016 was again a record-breaking year in terms of exports. 2 of 3 products made in Germany are exported to other EU countries. And that helps create jobs. Just 5.8% of Germans are currently out of work. That figure is higher in the EU as a whole, in part because of high unemployment in southern Europe.
The central problem of our time is inequality. It's the most important reason for Donald Trump's election, for the Brexit vote in Britain, and the rise of right-wing populist parties like Germany's AfD, France's National Front, and similar parties in Italy and the Netherlands.
A Twitter search for the phrase "Make Europe Great Again" yields images like these. The slogan has been adopted by populists on the far right across Europe. They're a minority, but they're inciting xenophobia and racism across the web.
Only around 15% of all Germans vote for the AfD, but we don't really talk about the other 85%. If this silent majority begins to speak out and take a stand to counter the populists and argue if need be, then I won't worry about Europe's future. Europe is greater than we think. We shouldn't forget what Europe means and what it does for us.
So Europe is peaceful and still strong. It just needs a little bit of help with branding.
And Europe could do with a little kick in the pants when it comes to new trends. Rather than being at the forefront of new digital technologies, European companies are lagging behind, and that's risky. Not only are they missing out on current business opportunities, they could miss the boat entirely. The digital age waits for no one. On the other hand, it offers mega opportunities. Keyboards and touchscreens will soon be obsolete. Next-generation computers understand human language and respond to verbal cues. It's a promising new market for IT companies if they're open to new ideas and willing to run with them.
Alexa, what do you do?
I can play music, answer questions, get the news and weather, create to-do lists, and much more.
Hey Cortana, show my next AdventureWorks trip to Melbourne.
Okay, showing trip to Melbourne.
Okay, Google, play the morning playlist.
Okay, playing morning playlist.
They have names like Alexa, Cortana, or simply Google. Digital assistants capable of understanding what we say and responding to our questions.
Alexa, how tall is Mount Everest?
Mount Everest's height is 29,029 feet.
They're supposed to help us navigate daily life.
Hey, Google, what's on the calendar today?
The first event is Space Day at Kevin's school.
Developers in Switzerland are among those who've turned their attention to this kind of technology. The city of Zurich is home to Google's biggest headquarters outside the United States. It employs some 2,000 people from 75 countries. Companies like Google are betting on digital assistants. They're experimenting with pioneering speech recognition technology involving complex algorithms. Chief developer Behshad Behzadi helps machines learn to recognize various dialects, as well as the pitch and speech patterns of individuals. Originally from Iran, he spent some time researching at one of the prestigious Max Planck Institutes in Germany. He describes some of the functions that digital assistants can perform and how they differ from what we're used to with search engines.
So you can use the assistant to help you answer things, similar to the fact that you were using search for many years to find the answers to your questions. So the assistant is also there for you to find the answers. But also you can get things done like if you want to order a pizza, for example, or if you want to take an Uber, so you can get things done in the real life. And I think the voice interaction is very important because this is like the most natural way humans talk to each other, and we prefer that people use the most natural way to interact with the assistant. What was the score of Bayern Munich in Champions League?
Bayern Munich lost 3-2 on November 23rd against Rostov.
The Google Assistant takes the principle of a search engine one step further. It remembers the questions users have asked and connects them to relevant templates. It's a kind of deep learning for machines.
So the learning can be done in two ways. Either I explicitly give this information to the assistant, which can be also through like natural conversations again. And the other way is that also by trying to learn from my interactions with the assistant itself. So if I'm searching all the times for one particular team, like Bayern Munich, which is my favorite team, then it should learn that when I'm asking for Champions League results, perhaps I'm caring more about Bayern Munich group or the teams in that group or Bayern Munich itself, basically. So that's the only way that the assistant can be really your personal assistant and useful.
These new digital assistants collect vast quantities of data. That gives rise to questions like, where is it all stored? Who has access to it? And how can privacy be maintained? All issues that still need to be addressed. Some experts are calling for a change in attitude.
Without gathering data, machines can't learn. If you want good service, you need to be able to provide data. The principle in Germany of strict data protection is no longer really tenable. It should be up to the individual the data belongs to decide what happens to that information, where it's stored, and how it's analyzed.
Excuse me,
Anne?
Yes, Jibo.
Melissa just sent a reminder that she's picking you up in half an hour.
Huh. And I'll blow your house in.
Hey.
The next step, digital helpers capable of recognizing gestures.
Welcome home, Eric.
An inbuilt camera enables them to discern expressions and movements.
If we look, say, 20 years ahead, I think we'll be moving about in so-called intelligent environments. We'll no longer view a computer as such. It'll seem almost invisible. People will be talking to the room, or people will be talking to their car.
Intelligent computers learning as they go. In the future, they'll be part of our everyday lives.
Interesting future, people talking to their room or their cars, though that I think we already have. For more, I'm now joined by Clemens Skibitsky. He's Professor of Communication and Media at the Cologne Business School. Good to have you with us. And talking about communication in particular, how would this kind of development in the digital age impact your job?
My job as a professor, but also as a consultant, will be changed a lot because the communication in general is going from a mass communication age to an individual age of communication in a social context. So I can facilitate communication among my students, and companies can facilitate the communication among their customers and with their customers and with their employees in a way we could never think of. Social media is now the development. What we see right now, this artificial intelligence will change it a lot more.
OK, so I can tell that you see it as a positive development. And as I said already, I mean, car drivers or people who like plants are talking to plants. So basically talking to an artificial intelligence, an intelligent software is just the next step. It's something that's already happening.
Yes, it's the next step. That means we have a need for simplicity. People need to have it simple, everything we do. And now we need apps, now we have operating system, and this AI, this intelligence will facilitate that. We don't have to think how to press which button or something. We just say it, and this will happen. And talking to a plant, this is what people maybe did, and maybe to a cat, but now we're talking to machines. But I think it will facilitate human life. Not only facilitation will be there, but we will focus on human things. So machines will take away everything we don't want to. Okay. We can concentrate on what is really makes up human beings.
That's an interesting take. AI actually will allow us to be more human. But looking at the possible downsides of it, we talked about all this data that's going to be collected, already being collected. What about data security, especially when we go even further?
I think we have to make a difference between data security. Data security has to be there, but data protection, what we see, for example, in Germany, we are hysteric about data protection. We have to know that these services, these personal assistants, can only work if they know who we are, what is interesting for us, and so on. Therefore, lots of data are there. So we have to have the idea that companies need to have my data to create benefits for me. And if they don't, I will not be their customer. So therefore, we have to be a little bit more let's get into this new world and try what works and what doesn't.
Okay, a bit more optimistic, a bit more courageous. And of course, we need companies that provide all that. And from my understanding is that Europe is somewhat lagging behind. We'll get back to this, so don't go anywhere. First of all, of course, most of us are using our smartphones, tablets and PCs several hours a day. Every day, multiply that by billions of users worldwide. And we're talking about a giant wave of digital data that grows bigger by the day. And Germany is really at the forefront of surfing that wave, thanks in part to its interpretation of the business buzzword Industry 4.0. It's a far from empty phrase. A vast amount of private and public funding is flowing into automated factories, and one center of this tech revolution is Frankfurt, home to the world's biggest internet hub. And with data volume growing at such a rapid pace, new data centers are popping up like mushrooms. Is an industry with serious growth potential.
Thomas King is an executive in the world's largest internet exchange based in Frankfurt. Almost every email, video, and data file that's sent in Germany passes through these cables. This digital data flow has more than tripled over the past 10 years. The amount of internet traffic is measured in terabytes per second. At peak periods, his company handles 5.5 terabytes per second.
You can picture this as 1.2 million people sitting at home, streaming a video in HD quality on their television, mobile phone or smartphone, all at the same time. That combined data volume is what travels through DKIX Frankfurt each and every second.
Mareike Jacobshagen works for Interaction, a company that provides data center services at internet exchange points. Interaction is currently expanding its operation in Frankfurt. The new facilities are being built on former industrial sites, which are still relatively affordable. Frankfurt is a hub for fiber optic networks, including ones that connect to Eastern Europe and beyond. Vast sums go into maintaining their infrastructure. This new complex, for example, cost about 100 million euros.
We build a new data center every year. Demand is very high. Sometimes we'll already have leased half the space in a new data center before it's even opened its doors.
Security is extremely tight at data centers, though none of the data that passes through these air-conditioned rooms is actually stored here. It's all through traffic, made up of a vast number of connections from all over the world. But how secure are the data superhighways that entire industries rely on?
If one internet hub, a larger internet hub, were to malfunction, it could have an effect on an entire region. You might see slower response times, for example. But generally speaking, the global internet would still work. Colleagues in the US wouldn't really be affected by a malfunction in Europe, for instance.
Maximilian Brandl is a software developer who specializes in industrial digitalization. His company was commissioned by a control box manufacturer to build the smart factory of the future, a showcase for what might be possible in Industry 4.0. For example, the control boxes are designed on a computer. The 3D virtual prototype is transmitted online to the production area, where it's then built. Without internet hubs, this transmission would be impossible.
We have all the prerequisites here. We have inexpensive sensors, software. We have great automation components. We have cloud applications. We have telecom infrastructure. That's everything we really need to make the next quantum leap. I'm seeing new ideas, new use cases developing everywhere.
Industry 4.0 will also give Thomas King's Internet Hub a major boost. The quantity of data in circulation will also increase due to the rise of autonomous vehicles and virtual and augmented reality.
I can't tell you exactly which of these technologies will come out on top, but I can say that the future will bring increasing digitalization.
As our world goes ever more digital, at work and at home, more and more of our lives will pass through cables like these. Data is the currency of the future, and that currency will depend on data hubs like this one in Frankfurt.
All right, we're back now with Clemens Kibitsky of the Cologne Business School. And going by this report, Europe is not lagging behind when it comes to digital technologies.
Yes, on the one side, yes, but here we're talking about infrastructure. This is very, very important. The capacities to transport data, we could never think of that before. But who controls this data? Who has the access? And not the data is the oil of the 21st century. Connected data, turning big data into smart data to make better decisions in the eyes of customers. So infrastructure is nice, but what is happening in this infrastructure? And right now Europe is a little bit behind, I would say far behind American and Asian companies in living or be part of our lives and collecting these data and turning into smart data to make better decisions.
Okay, so the oil barons of today are the United States in particular because of their advance in digital technology. But that also implies, I mean, what about the security? I have to come back to this again, because as my understanding is that however secure you can make one of these data centers, there's always somebody, a hacker out there, finding a way in.
Yes. Of course, we live in a digital network age. We're opening up many doors, and so we have to learn how to really make this safe again. But this is a new step. You see, in economic history or every step of history, every time we had new things like automobiles, we had to learn how to drive and make a road safe and something like that. So now we're really in this turn, and we have to learn how to make this safe all the time. But again, safety is one thing. What we're doing with this data, and the Amazon, Facebooks, and Googles of this world, they have to care for our data safety because they want to make business with us.
Or the unknowns. I mean, we've heard these allegations that the US presidential election was rigged because of outside fake news and also working social media. I mean, how big is that threat, and what do we do about that?
I think I also see it in historic context. I mean, we always had manipulation. In the mass communication age, we also had this. Parties who were owners of media companies, and we had influencers in the classical media also influenced elections. But here we have a new era, and I think fake news, for example, it's like Wikipedia. You can put something in, but you can also correct it really fast. Once you write something wrong into a book, it's there for a long time. But on digital, on social media, for example, we can right away turn it into, hey, this is a fake news, because you have
react immediately.
You have the intelligence of the crowd who can directly react, and everybody sees that's a fake.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel, then, in that respect, at least. Clemens Kwiatkowski of the Cologne Business School, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
And of course, it is that time of year again when the movers and shakers gather in the small Swiss alpine resort of Davos to talk about the world's problems and how to solve them. High on the agenda this time around are the topics of inequality, climate change, and the new US administration and Industry 4.0, which means apart from real human beings, you might also run into cutting-edge robots and the like at the elite venue. And our social media reporter, Paul Christian Britz, is there to keep an eye on the latest trends in the digital world.
Join the ride to a digital Davos. Digital is already an everyday part of life. Bus ticket to the airport? Booked on my cell phone. Web check-in makes traveling faster. My boarding pass? A digital code, completely paper-free. Phone calls are only a minor part of a modern mobile phone's repertoire. They're digital all-rounders, computers which just happen to have a built-in telephone. In some countries, it's even possible to file tax returns with an app. And even our leisure time is becoming digitalized with smartwatches and fitness armbands. They collect a jogger's data on blood pressure, heart rate, and speed.
But every benefit comes with a cost. And what about more drastic measures? If I replace a tired organ with a 3D print or robotic parts, do I get to keep my human identity?
Our food may well come from a 3D printer in future. Chefs are experimenting with edible products. Virtually anything can be printed, from ready-to-ride motorbikes to artificial knees. At the World Economic Forum, business leaders, politicians, and scientists are debating how best to master the digital revolution.
This year, the shuttle service operated by humans still provides good jobs for people in the area who actually take vacation from their regular occupation. But in the future, they could be replaced by self-driving shuttles.
Things are still very much at the prototype stage, but all major automakers are developing cars which drive autonomously. Are humans even replaceable? Robots are also increasingly taking over industrial production. Could they even make our jobs superfluous?
Not necessarily entire jobs, but tasks and functions might be taken on, not only at the lower levels. At the same time, digitalization also creates a wealth and a plethora of opportunities for new roles. If you, for instance, think of the data scientist, that's a job that didn't exist 2 or 3 years ago. Now most companies want a data scientist. It's a highly sought after position.
In Davos, the digital future and tradition come together. One major challenge for the forum is to find a solution for digitalization that will not leave parts of the population behind or even scare some back into tradition.
And here's a quick look at what's coming up next week. After Donald Trump's inauguration on Friday as the 45th U.S. president, we'll take a closer look at what's in store for the world under the new U.S. administration, especially when it comes to protectionist policies, a major threat to globalization and Germany's export sector in particular. We'll talk to medium-sized companies like Ziel Abeck, a German manufacturer of ventilation and air conditioning components, and find out how they're preparing for the new era. Be sure to join us for that. That's all for now. Thanks for keeping me company from me and all the team here in Made in Germany. Thank you and see you soon.